4 games over 500 as of December 11th, and now they just have been poor. As Paul George
elsewhere, as the Pacers work it around. This is George for 3.
Faster. We want to score more. We want to shoot more threes.
They come off a 3-game road trip, winning at Sacramento, coming from 22 down. George is able to
stretch you out with that shooting touch, but he's got to get stronger down low. Right? Paul George makes Marv. It's been Jennings, and to me, the rookie, Hernan Gomez.
George from way downtown.
Right now, Reggie, you can see the collective confidence as Paul George
Paul George with 21 points going at Courtney Lee, and he has made a turn.
So far up to this point, and they've struggled versus sub-500 teams as Paul George was tough, veteran.
All right, here's George. Yes, Paul George.
In denying him the basketball.
Here's George over Porzingis. 5 to finish in that number 7 seed. Bad pass, and here's George ahead of the field and puts it down. She picked up on a switch by Love. Here's George. Yes. This time George goes right and moving and stuffs.
Challenging PG at the rim. Bang. Go all kinds of ways.
Yes, there can. There can be many possibilities. As Thaddeus. George with the jumper. That pass intended for Thompson. George ahead of the field and hammers it down. As George pulls it back. Yes, nice move by George, guarded by Jefferson. A long 3-point attempt, and it rolls in. George thought he was fouled and scores.
Wow.
Goes back to George for 3. Yes.
7-point game, and now George tees up and hits.
had to run their offense.
Rubio and Teague among the leaders in the league in assists as Paul George clears out.
George working his way inside against Wiggins, and
already mentioned maybe a third. Should Glenn Robinson the third be in a dunk contest?
This in the opening quarter.
He is giving Wiggins all.
Miles
let it go.
Finds George for 3
Yes.
at the buzzer. 7-10.
7-10.
And the pass through the lane. Shot clock, plenty of time, and George hits the shot.
Paul George quickly silences that run.
Set the screen. Yeah, just set the screen because he's gonna. Wiggins has a hard time recovering.
What a shot by George.
To score.
Both the point guards, Rubio and Teague, each have 8 assists, and George
over Wiggins.
For Turner, offensive rebound for Young. And then George hits the corner 3.
Goldberg, the coaches are wearing the bow ties. George, step back jumper.
You're not going to find a
4, and they still run it here for Ryan Anderson.
Out of the timeout.
Wow, everybody's missing at the rim for the Rockets tonight.
Ooh, razzle-dazzle team. George gives it short. Knew it as soon as it left his hands. George the leak out and the dunk. Spinning is George. The bank to beat. Intended?
It could be.
No! First points of the half.
This is very explosive.
George attacks. That was pretty explosive. George has 21, shooting for 24.
got a problem.
Over to help. George's jump shot, perfect.
Going out of bounds, trying to throw it off of Jefferson, who caught it. And then George back in, pulls up and strokes the triple. George for the free throw line. Whistle.
Yeah, my people got in touch with his people, and we worked it out.
And George powers his pull-up 3. And no, look at that. That was a beautiful tip.
Boy, really plays an up-tempo game.
Yeah, yep. Here's George. And Houston's already 2 seconds. George. Oh, wow. Paul George. He kicks out. Up top, George. They'll go to work. He's fouled, and it counts.
He's played him, and Willie Garrett forgot that.
Paul George, and the Pacers strike first. Here's Paul George. And the lead is back to Indiana. Step back jumper. Indiana has the lead. Now
It's 2. No, we've seen that, and the Pacers have been good enough that they can come back. It's going to put a lot of pressure on you. Those keys are to being able to run back at time.
And George, an open 3, and he's hit all 3 of it here Friday night. in a 135-130 loss.
Stuckey outside to Paul George. His three-pointer is good. Paul George, good again. He's
Turner. Step back. George. Baseline. 2 more.
This to shred the defense. You got to shoot it. I mean, he's got to shoot it. I'm sorry. I'm not necessarily into those kind of things.
Oh, my!
Was that the jinx there?
No, that was no.
George, pull up 3.
Good.
Got it.
Yes.
Goes right around the defender.
Great find.
George for 3.
Great find by Jeff T. Great pass there.
George creates space and gets 2 more.
Turner's second year out of the University of Texas. Here's Paul George, so difficult to handle. Paul George crossover, gets in the paint and gets around Ibaka. Here's George, good job by Valanciunas. And the 3 is good by George, but George, 5 on the clock. On the run, and what a tough George scoops it up in a slam dunk. 2 of 8 from the field, and George leans in, and here's George, and he is just so smooth. 2:44 to go. George for the tie, and he's fouled from 3-point range. George the other way, doesn't miss.
Now he's matched up by Tucker, and his shot again is good.
Open shots, the big thing. Got to make it. Ball was moving, open shots were there, and they came up when they needed it most.
In Paul George, here chasing him around the baseline screen, and goes over the fin and maybe clearing the air a little bit, knowing he's going to be in Indiana for the rest of this year. The paint kick out Paul George, that 3 on the way. There we go.
In that game, which I think allowed the Pacers to continue to play
in terms of pressure in the 4th quarter. Paul George seemingly getting it going.
Help their team win, and that's what Cody Zeller means to these Hornets.
Paul George drills some of their best offense. Tonight getting it done is Paul.
Positive feedback here on this last possession that they can take into the locker room.
He's in attack mode, this time to Turner. Turner the kick to Paul George, and that's catch. Brooks. Behind the back, Paul George, long ranger on the way. That's good.
Opportunities to play, and he's ready, and he's performing well as George not roll. A little bit delayed getting back to Zeller on the backside.
Elite level, like he is on that last play defensively for the Hornets.
Paul gets way open on the baseline alley.
That was my first Final Four in 1991 when I was a freshman. So it really is the voice.
Turnover game. Really solid pass there. Cut.
3 of them.
You got 5 on the shot clock.
George.
That's
Paul George. 4-3. Got it.
low for the ride, too.
Here's George for another 3.
Bradley over there.
George. Pull-up shot. Big-time win. They and the Washington Wizards have had quite a regular season. 3 have played in the NBA. 2 left as George hits a 3.
Sleep on him.
George against Crowder.
He is feeling so confident, just running out of gas. Good job there by Allen to get it. And smart play there. Hold it in the first half, at the end of the beginning of the first quarter.
And another 3.
Half.
So 2 rebounds and 2 assists shy of a trip.
That time and forced the issue, didn't do it.
On the other end, pulled
By Towns, and the Pacers get it back. The basket and a foul. George, they left him open.
Because they were trying to communicate. Slingshot, bad shot.
Now George, his 3, perfect. Paul George is.
They got 2 number 1 picks there.
George for 3, and we're tied.
That play.
Now George fades and scores.
With Serge Ibaka. That's why they made the move. One of the reasons they made the move to get George has got Payton on him.
Takes him right to the basket.
That's the move. Defensive position.
And now George to tie it with a 3.
Oh, he's too good of a shooter.
They've hit 6 of 8.
Right to the back of the rim.
That last shot by Fournier was counted as a 2. And there's Paul George again. George for 3.
I'm telling you, he's coming off this.
On Thursday, 92 Toronto as George, another basket and a forge against Ross. And he got the bounce off the top.
Half in it and not fully into it.
You can't afford to fall into that.
And George with a three. Young got the rebound.
Ball's going. I could see him take a quick trigger.
Paul George. He can do it anyway.
That's my kind of guy.
Paul George weaves inside, scores, and draws the... This is George. Rattles it through. Bellinelli, Marvin Williams back into the game. Catch and shoot for George. Paul George, C.J. Miles playing together for Indiana. And Paul George,
George for three.
Warriors got a win last night. Dell, I know you got a chance to see it. They were threatened by Philip.
George goes inside, two more.
Paul George, quick points off the bench. Paul George, two more.
Personal space. Nothing pleasurable about that.
Paul George back on the... George. Paul George, that's a three, and he's fouled.